Hi, what's up, peeps? This is Jose Trujillo, world's greatest living artist. The only one, the best one. The crowd goes wild. World's greatest living artist and stuff. Yeah, here we go. Let's do a landscape. Let's do a landscape Jose Trujillo style. Jose Trujillo style. Jose Trujillo style. Gotta do a landscape Jose Trujillo style. Yeah, Jose Trujillo style. So I'm gonna start out with this, and I'm gonna get a palette knife out. For those of you who are like, my God, I love when he paints with palette knives. Well, I'm gonna get the palette knife out. I want to remind you guys, those of you who are artists, check it out, guys. Paint calmly, okay? Paint calmly, guys. There's no rush. Find the pearl. Find the silver lining when you're painting. Okay? Nothing bad is going to happen. You're not going to run out of time. Nothing bad is going to happen. Paint calmly but keep painting. Okay? And the way that I do that is that I enjoy every brush stroke, right? In this case, every palette knife stroke. I enjoy it. I like it. Right? Not the painting. The painting is secondary. Maybe even at the end. Maybe even it's not even in my mind. If it's in my mind, I start thinking and then I start worrying. Is the painting coming out great? Everybody does that. No. I don't want to worry about the painting. I want to worry about painting. I don't want to worry about anything. But I want to focus on painting, not the painting. I sound like a broken record sometimes, man. I'm just trying to. You know what, guys? Also, I'm trying to learn as I'm sharing this stuff, because I am a knucklehead. Like sometimes I forget too, you know, and I have to remember. I have to remind myself and remember, dude. You gotta start. You know, you gotta do more of what you're preaching. Do more of what you're preaching. Because I'm human, guys. Like, I fuck up just about, I don't know, like, pretty often. and I have to remind myself that, too, because as an artist, I'm always also focusing on the painting, right? And I have to get away from it. So I don't want you guys to think that here I am, I don't know, like the only way that I can fall is with a silver bullet. No, like, I fall with anything. I fall with anything, guys. Okay, I don't want you guys to get the wrong impression of me just because I'm talking about all these things. Don't get the impression that I'm not going through it and it's not difficult for me. It is very, very, very fucking difficult for me too. So it's something that I work on every day. Okay, just saying. The mind will try to make anything difficult. So that's why I say that. And most artists try to focus on the painting itself, and that makes it even more difficult. So I've learned a few little tricks, right? I learned a few little tricks not to focus on that, not to focus on the painting, focus on the brush stroke, and then you're a bit more liberated. Yep. You even have fun. You even start having fun. You're like, oh my God, I never thought I was going to be able to do that. And the funny thing is that the painting ends up doing its job really with minimal effort. It ends up doing its thing. It doesn't really require you to be so focused on it. That's what I found out anyways. I love that. Thank you so much, Richard. Richard says Jose practices what he preaches. Bam! It's so true. But not always. Sometimes I've fallen on the ground and I feel like, oh my God, how can I get up from this one? I have my days, guys. I have my days where I feel like all hope is lost and that kind of shit, right? And I have to get up. And I have to show up for others too, not just for myself. So I have to remind myself that every time that I'm showing up, it's not just for myself. It's now I have a commitment, right, show up for others, and so that makes it that helps. It makes it a little bit more difficult, but it also helps me when I'm feeling down. Right? So I can't be like, no, I'm not going to do anything today. But wait a minute, some people are counting on seeing me do something and reminding them to go do something. So it's kind of, yeah, fall off the saddle, get back on. You got to be cowboys around town. You got to jump back on again, and you know, whatever. This Pinto's not gonna keep me from riding it. Ohio Silver, Pinto. Ohio Silver. I've been painting. I love painting pretty atmospheric stuff, but I've been painting more atmospheric lately, for one reason or another. And again, you know, the painting does its thing by itself. It doesn't. A lot of artists think that they have to put a lot of emphasis on the painting, but the painting sort of gets done by itself. It's always in the back burner, working itself out. It's like you put it, when you start painting, it's like you're putting it in an oven. It doesn't really need you. You just have to create the heat. You know, you're creating the heat, but it doesn't really need you, like, to be looking at it. Just create the heat, and it has a stopper. It has a little alarm where it's like finished. That's been my experience, anyways. Bring out the brush and just start playing with it. You know, there's no right or wrong. It's just, I'm out to do a painting. I'm not out to do a good painting or a bad painting. I have to constantly remind myself that, guys, I'm out to do a painting. And sometimes they're very good, and sometimes they're not so good. According to me, right? According to other people, it's depending who's watching it, who wants to purchase it, and on and on. If I judge the painting according to me, it's almost always failure. I heard artists say this. I almost never like what I paint. I'm like, you're not alone, compadre. You are not alone. I almost never like what I paint myself. But that's because my mind, my ego won't leave me alone. And so when I'm painting, I'm not trying to like my painting, because I know I tend to lose when I do that. When I'm painting, honest to God, guys, I'm trying to enjoy painting. That's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to enjoy the movement. I'm trying to enjoy, you know, I'm just trying to enjoy the act of painting. The painting itself almost never brings me, very rare does it bring me like little moments of joy or something, and it usually does when I'm just, because what happens when I'm just working, because what happens is that you lose perspective as an artist. You lose perspective very easily. I'm gonna dive into this since I have time. The reason why you lose perspective is because when you're painting, you go into the artwork and it's like a little kid playing a video game. Capiche? How many of you have seen kids playing a video game and the little kids get like so worked up and so angry, and they're like, you know, like my son plays Xbox, and he's like, what the hell? What's going on? He's like playing Minecraft. I don't know what they play. Sometimes it's Minecraft, sometimes he used to play Roblox or whatever. But when he's playing with someone else, it's like, what the hell is going on? They're all screaming and whatnot. And I'm always like, hey, dude, keep it down. Don't get so angry. And then it reminds me of when I'm painting, because that's really what I'm thinking. I'm not as loud as him when no one's watching, but I also get like that, right? I also get like, what the hell is going on? And it's because you lose perspective right away. You lose reality very quick. You get into the game. You get sucked into the game, so you start losing reality. And that's what happens to the artists. The artists start painting something, and all of a sudden they start going into they go into that, right? And sometimes it's really beautiful, and many times it's not. Many times is nothing but a huge fucking headache, right? Because your world becomes this little fucking thing. Your world becomes this, right? So you start overthinking everything. Overthinking. And so if you're not careful, you end up getting upset because your world is in here, right? And that's not the world. Come on, I mean, that is not the world, right? But that's what it feels like. And so anything you dive into, you're going to try to control. Kids only get upset in video games because they're trying to control something, either their experience in the video game or their friends' behavior, right? I told you to come over here, don't shoot at that, blah blah blah. I always hear them screaming at each other. And I remember when I was a kid, we used to when we played video games, we used to go to the arcade or whatever, and it was the same thing. It was like being super angry, like it started fun and then it turned into anger. And then you have to be pulled out of the game for a while, and then you come back and it's super fun all over again, just for a little bit, and then it turns into anger all of a sudden. and I think that's what it is. You're trying to control. And so if you give up control on a painting, you are going to feel like the bliss of Buddha, right? But you have to give up control. And that's not very easy to do. The whole point of painting gets misrepresented. And so everybody thinks that painting is control. And I paint another one. Everybody thinks that, look, I'm drinking water today, baby. I'm not drinking coffee. I don't feel so happy about that. But I have to drink water right now because it's hot. It's hot in the studio. Here, I'm gonna put another canvas there. So that's the shit you're fighting. Right? You're not fighting the painting. You're fighting the control. You feel like you lose control. Right? The colors are not coming out. The composition is off, and on, and you. That's the story of every artist. They're fighting control. And so what I tell artists, and what I tell myself, and when I tell artists, I'm actually telling myself, I'm that. What's the word? Let me think of the word. I am that selfish that when I'm telling someone, I'm actually telling myself. I just use an excuse to tell someone else. I don't know if that's selfishness, but I feel a little selfish when I do that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm telling you guys, don't think and paint. But really, I'm telling my own little butt. Don't paint and think, because I that's something that I have to fight every day, right? I have to oppose that, or move out of it, kind of like pivot, yield that, you have to yield it, because otherwise you go bananas, you go super bananas, because you're at least this is my belief, okay? After this is my understanding after painting full time for almost a decade now. This is my 2 cents on this. The job is not to be focused on the painting. The job is to make a painting. It's to make the painting. That may take you one day, it may take you a year. You may be Picasso and make 5 a day, or you may be what's his name? This other dude from England, the one who painted the Queen, who recently passed. Well, not so recent, but kind of recently. You may be that dude, and it takes you like 3 years to make a portrait, right? And it's okay. It doesn't matter. But the job is to create the work. You know, the job is to create the work and not to get a high from the work. And I think we're all looking for a high from the work, and that's very dangerous. It's very, 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 very dangerous. I always encourage artists oppose the high from the painting. I know a lot of artists are like, oh my God, I feel such bliss when I look at my paintings. I'm like, you should feel the bliss when you're painting them. Don't look for the compensation when you look at them, unless you're okay in that department. But my guess is about 99% of artists are not okay in that department, because we tend to find ourselves through identification of what we do. And so I recommend, as well as, you know, for other artists as well as for me myself, don't find yourself in the painting. You're never going to find yourself there. If you want to find something in the painting, find it in the act of painting, not the painting itself. The painting, this fucking thing is almost always going to let you down. Okay, I'm telling you, it's almost always going to let you down. It's going to make you feel like you're not good enough, you're not worthy, because you're trying to look for yourself in there, and it's a very draining situation for the artist. Okay, it's a very draining situation. Find the love in the creation of it. Its creation is where you will find the bliss. In its creation, not in the finished product. The finished product is almost always, again, if you try to find yourself there, going to let you down. If it doesn't let you down today, it'll let you down tomorrow. If you see it tomorrow, you might be like, oh my God, I need some fixing. I didn't do this right. Or before I send it out, I should work on that. And I've been working 2 weeks on that nose. This is what most artists say. Lucien Freud, thank you so much. That is right. I barely read that. Yeah, Lucien Freud. Thank you. Yeah. So it's almost always going to let you down. Almost always. Yeah, literally like raising kids. I love that. That is so true. And so don't focus, you know, don't focus on it. Don't focus on it from that perspective. Enjoy. One of the things that I say all the time is enjoy every brushstroke. Your job should be to enjoy every brushstroke. If you enjoy the brushstroke, you have a real chance of falling back in love with it. I know a lot of artists have this love-hate relationship with their artwork, but I promise you, it's not your artwork you have a love-hate relationship. It's your acceptance of what you're doing. The love-hate relationship is not with your art. It's with yourself. Sometimes you accept what you're doing, and therefore you embrace it, and you do it with care. And other times, all you're doing is just judging yourself, and you do it from a state of desperation, of a little bit of anxiety or a little bit of anger. And you're not fighting the painting, trust me. It's not the painting you're fighting. You're always fighting yourself. You're fighting your ability. And I'm going to call it an ability because it's a practice. So something that you practice well, you probably turn into an ability. I don't know. I may be wrong, but it sounds about right. You're fighting your ability to surrender. To surrender. That's really what you're fighting. You're fighting your ability to surrender. Painting is very, I don't know if these two words can go together, but I'm going to say them. Painting is very, very fucking sacred. It is a very high form of, it's a very high activity. It's a very high activity. It's like anything else, right? But we have to talk about this because we're painters or artists or something. It's a very sacred activity. If painting forces you, like sandpaper, it shapes you into surrender. That's what it does. You only paint, and I wish I could see the faces, if I can see some faces, or thumbs up or thumbs down, just to see what you guys think. Painting forces you to surrender, and it is only when you surrender that you actually you love what you do, and you enjoy painting. When you lose track of time, when you lose track of what you were painting, when you lose track of what was in your mind, you have surrendered to that moment. And so painting is a spiritual vehicle. And that's why so many people say, I put my soul, my tears, and my heart into this painting. Other people don't understand that. That's why you say things like that when you're going to sell your paintings or whatever, or you're going to exhibit them. You talk about them as if there was almost, you had a child, this act of creation. And the reality is that, yes, it almost feels that way, but the reality is that you're the child of creation wasn't the painting. The child of the creation that the thing that you created was space. You created space in your mind. You surrendered, and therefore you created something without judgment. To create something with no judgment is the ultimate. To be anywhere without judgment is the ultimate way of being. It's the highest. It's the highest form of a human being. This is all sages, from anyone, from Christ to Buddha, anyone, Krishnamurti, Edgar Tolle recently. They all talk about it. Every single sage talks about it. Live without judgment. Live without judgment. Don't mind. Live without judgment. And that is what you experience. That's why you love painting. You don't love painting because you made a fucking happy little tree. You love painting because you're not judging it. You're not judging what you're creating. It's like looking at the mirror and always finding Brad Pitt every time I see the fucking mirror, right? It's like I look at the mirror and it's like Brad Pitt. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, dude. Hell yeah. There's nothing I can judge. It's Brad Pitt, baby. When I see him, when I look at myself in the mirror, I see Brad Pitt. Yeah, I'm just joking, guys, but you know what I mean. I hope. But ultimately, that's what happens, and this is what a lot of people don't get. They're like, oh man, I want to feel what I felt yesterday when I was painting. Well, you don't have to paint differently. The vibration is different, but you don't have to paint differently. What you have to do, if anything, is do nothing. Stop judging. Stop judging yourself. Stop hurting yourself. Allow the painting to be fucking ugly. Allow it to be ugly. Because this is what artists do. We're like, oh my God, I gotta get back there. Allow it to be. And then artists always come up with things like, well, how am I going to progress? You're going to progress not by hurting yourself. You're going to progress by, it's a natural mechanism. The next one's going to get better, and the next one's going to get better, and the next one's going to get better. And sometimes the next one is worse than the one you painted 5 years ago, but it's okay. It's got nothing to do with you. It's got nothing to do with you. People don't buy. Here's something, guys. I made hundreds. I don't know, like probably thousands of paintings. Not probably. I made thousands of paintings, and I've sold a lot of work. Guys. I've made a full-time living for almost a decade now, just selling work. I found one thing out. People are not buying the painting, guys. People are buying the quality in which you make it, the state of mind in which you make it. I can promise you that. What's up, Hicks? The what?
The Copics you say you have.
Oh yeah, hold on, Nico. I'm gonna live. Give me a second. Okay? Look, there's some right there, look. Dude, have fun with it. So, if that makes any sense, that's what people are buying, guys. I'm gonna put another one, okay? So, if you want to hang out. I promise you, people are not buying your clever little tree or clever little bird you painted. People are buying the state in which you're painting it. People are buying the quality of attention that you have given the painting. That's what they're buying. That's why I don't know, Ico. I'm in a live. Go ahead and look for it. That's why I have a pen. You want a pen? That's why so many people have a hard time with their work. They feel like they can't sell it. I can't sell it. You can't sell it because you don't want to sell it because you don't feel good about what you're painting. Not because you can't sell it. Of course you can sell it. But you don't feel good about what you're painting. Does that mean that the painting is bad? Of course not. You're just not painting it in a surrender state. Your artist for 90. Hey, what's up? Says surrendering to your expectations to allow for the greatest end result. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you know, right, about singing, like singing for the song versus singing for yourself, kind of deal. Yeah, you don't sing to kind of. This is something I also say, not about singing, but about painting. But it's the same thing. You don't want to paint to tickle yourself, right? To make yourself feel, I don't know, like all happy and whatnot. You know, you don't paint for that. The painting is not going to do that. Painting will, not the painting. Painting will make you feel all kinds of butterflies and will make you feel like Buddha and Jesus, and all of a sudden you're gonna start wanting to walk on water. That's what it does. Painting does that, right? When you're doing it from a surrendered state. But the painting itself cannot do that. The painting itself, at best, it'll give you a headache. If you look at it and then you start judging it and you're like, oh my God, the painting, at best it'll give you a headache. At worst, it'll make you hate painting and probably drop painting for a while. Because it's not supposed to do that. See, because you're not looking at it from fresh eyes. Someone else is. The viewer, someone who's going to buy it, someone else is looking at it from fresh eyes, but you're looking at it from your judgment of how good you are or how bad you are, or did you paint the water reflection well, or did you use that green correctly? You're looking at it from eyes of judgment, and not I don't mean judgment in a negative way, like in a bad way. Like you're trying to be, mean or anything. No, you're looking at it with judgment, because anything that you know how to do, you will always try to judge. And anything you have a story with, you always want to judge. Anything you have a story with. If you have a story with painting, you're going to want to judge it because you know about painting. This is why I say that new painters have a better shot at creating success than with their work, than painters who have been at it for 10, 15, 20 years. And the reason why they have a better shot at it is because they're not judging it. That's why they have a better shot at it. They're not judging it. They're not. Because they don't know. If you don't know something, you have a better chance. Than if you do. Just a second, guys. Back again, baby. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Like, ultimately, the painting needs to paint itself. And of course, I'm not talking about physically. I'm talking about emotionally. You shouldn't get so emotionally invested in the painting if you want liberation from it. Some people have no understanding of that, and they even get upset when I say stuff like this. They say, I have to think about my painting so much. And I'm like, okay, cool. If that works for you, that's awesome. If I think about my painting so much, I start feeling a little bit angry. I start feeling a little bit worked up. I'm like, because I'm trying to fit it into some form, into some box, right? The painting needs to look this way, and so I can't afford to do that. I can't afford to do that. And one way of getting out of that is to just focus on the brushstroke. The brushstroke always liberates me. The brushstroke. That's why some people say, "Oh my God, I love your brushstroke." I focus so much on the brushstroke. You know, not to sound cocky or anything. People do like my brushstroke. They just do. I don't know what to tell you. But I believe it's because I focus so much on it. So that because if I focus on it, my attention goes there, and so my attention gets off the painting, and then I'm able to enjoy painting all over again. Just a second, guys. Sorry about that, guys. I was on a phone call. And so, yeah, that's what I do. I try to focus on the... And not focus on the painting. The painting's not going to give me anything. Again, this is something that I have to keep reminding myself, by the way, okay? Because it's very easy to get caught up. It's actually the movement that brings you the joy. I think it's the movement. I think it's well, it's not the movement, but the movement becomes as a doorway almost out of your mind. Ultimately, what I want to do is get out of my mind. So if I don't focus on the painting, I'm not in my mind, right? If I don't focus on the painting, I'm not in my mind. This happens to me also in sales and marketing, guys, by the way, okay? If I'm not focusing on the sale, if I'm not focusing on, like, oh my God, I can't wait for these people to pay me. If I'm not focusing on the sale, I'm not in my mind anymore. And so, therefore, I can enjoy the moment of whatever I'm doing, right? Whether it's marketing, visiting a client, or making a phone call, or whatever, or making a video. If I'm not thinking about what I'm getting out of it, if I'm not thinking, that's the key. If I'm not thinking about what I'm getting out of it, I won. I won that day. And so this is something, it's almost spiritual. It really is. I know I'm just playing around, but I feel like it really is. If I'm not constantly thinking about what I'm going to get out of the deal, I actually get to enjoy what I'm doing. It's when I'm constantly thinking what I'm going to get out of it that I'm like, rrr. I'm like pissed off, or I'm a little angry, or I'm like, rrr. So if I just get out of that, if I leave that whole deal of, oh my God, I wonder when I'm getting paid, how much they're going to pay me, all those stresses, right? Because they're stresses, because you're thinking about what you're trying to do is you're trying to control the outcome of your efforts, really. And you really can't. You really, not like that. You can if you don't focus on them. If you do them so much and you don't focus on them, I feel like you can. And I'm not saying not to be like responsible or pragmatic when it comes to whatever you're doing, whether it's painting or marketing or whatever. But if you minimize the amount of attention you give the end result, you have a much better chance of actually, I think, having a really good art career and enjoying it, which is the ultimate, right? Not only it's great, but you're also enjoying it. Not only it's great, you're getting exhibits, I don't know, you're getting paid, accolades, and all that, and then you're also enjoying it. You've won, man. Like, I don't know what else do you want. You won already. You won at the game. But oftentimes that's not what we do. What we do is that we're like, oh, this seems easy. Let me make it more difficult. I mean, that's the story of the human being, right? That's like, this seems fairly easy. Let me think of 10 different ways how I can make it 10 times more difficult. And that's kind of where we go awry. But it's really not that difficult. like focusing on the brush stroke rather than the painting itself is and enjoying it, savoring every brush stroke and enjoying it is by far the most important thing I've discovered in my painting career. And you would think that I would do that naturally, but I don't. I have to actually practice to do that every single day. I have to get in the state and remind myself. You would think because it's the most important thing, most liberating thing to do, and it allows me to do my work. And it actually when I do that, I also get paid more for many reasons. You would think that, well, it's a no-brainer. This guy's pretty smart. He's going to do that every day. But no, I actually have to convince my brain. I'm like, I have to pray and I have to be like, please, let's focus on the brushstroke. Let's focus on enjoying it, not focusing on the painting. And it's almost like I have to convince this little kid, please, I'm going to take you to dinner, but behave, I'm going to take you to dinner, but please behave. Please behave. That's how I feel when I paint. So I just wanted to show you a little bit of what goes through my mind. That way you don't get the wrong idea and think that I have it all figured out. Fuck no, I don't. I don't have anything figured out. I'm pushing along the way. Don't feel alone in it, guys. I'm there with you. It's just that I'm practicing it, right? And so that's what kind of helps me, right? I'm the guy who, metaphorically, right? Because I'm not really that guy. But look at me as the guy who exercises every day, and like has killer, beach body, but is open with you to let you know that I want to eat cupcakes all day, right? That would be me in art, right? I want to sit and make this more difficult than it is every day, and so I have to remind myself, no cupcakes for you, right? I have to do my work, but that is really what that's really my day. My day is when I'm painting, right? It's reminding myself, hey, you have more than enough time. Enjoy it. It's when you think you don't have time that you can't enjoy it, by the way. Time is the worst disease invented by human beings, the idea of time. Because we come into the world thinking that everything's fine, and then all of a sudden someone shows us a clock, and we get the idea of time, and then all of a sudden you feel like you can't do anything. It's time is a mental disease in my perspective, and it's I would call it the demon of time. You know how people used to call things demons? I'm gonna call it the demon of time. Time. The idea of time is really like if we were in medieval times, I would call it a demon. That demon known as time. Because it's really why you do and don't do things. Ultimately, the fear revolves around time. If you dissect it, if you start looking at it, it looks like a million different things. But if you dissect fear, if you truly dissect it, you will understand that fear is latched on to time. That's why Jesus used to tell his disciples, why are you so worried about tomorrow? Why are you so worried about tomorrow? Why are you so worried about the next moment, right? Why are you so worried? Because he understood, right, that the human affliction was time. The idea of time. Will I have time for this? Will I have time for that? I don't know if I can do it all. Oh my God. If you lived, I don't know, 10,000 years, you wouldn't be having that conversation in your mind. You'd be like, fuck yeah, I'll get it done. Pronto, right? I don't care. I'll get to it next century, right? But, oh my God, I gotta lose weight. I'll get to it next century. I'll push it for next century. So you wouldn't be really, you would have the problem of time once the 10,000 years were close enough, right? But in the beginning, you wouldn't care. You'd be like, you'd probably live a good 1,000 years not giving a shit. That's my estimation. So in my book, vampires have it all figured out. Okay, so Rachel says, there's some real interesting theories about time and mirrors being the instigator of self-doubt and despair in humans. Oh, I gotta check that out. I didn't know that. I know that time creates that, and mirrors. I mean, throughout history, I don't know about the direct connection, but the esoteric connection of mirror is identification. That's really the esoteric one. I don't know about the direct one, but the esoteric connection of mirrors is because human beings identify, right? So this is why we have the story of Narcissus fell in love with his reflection. Really, he fell in love. They're talking about, it was an explanation of the ego, right? But I got to read about the stuff you're saying. That sounds pretty cool. But yeah, it's the identification, right? It's what all Eastern philosophies come to about we live in a duality, right? We live in a duality. We think we're separate, and regardless of what religion or whatever, the deeper essence of any religion you participate in or anything that the deep essence of that, the esoteric component of that is duality, right? That they're trying to get you to marry again your true self. Right? They're trying to get you to see your true self, that you're not separated from the whole. And that's why we have the story of Narcissus. Narcissus thought he was separated. He fell in love with the reflection. He no longer saw himself as himself, but he saw himself as the reflection. Right? There's two now. There's me and my identity. There's me right here, and then there's my identity, my reflection over here. And pre-Socratic philosophers talked about that all the time. I used to be a nerd for that kind of shit. The first time the infant sees the reflection and realizes it's separate from the mother, feels deep sense of lacking. Yeah, the sense of lacking is the root of all suffering. Hell yeah, that is it right there. Something like that. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. I remember reading about this dude from India. I think they took him to England at some point in his life. Jiddu Krishnamurti. He used to be a modern day prophet, philosopher, whatever, and they call these people, they used to call them saints, and then they started calling them awakened beings, and then they just started calling them human beings that just don't suffer, right? They have pains, they have stomach aches and shit like that, but they don't suffer mentally. They don't have emotional suffering. They can cry, but they don't get stuck with it. Right? They're not walking around like, oh my god, yesterday this really bothered me. They're not thinking about their fucking taxes all day, right? and this guy said something really interesting. I remember reading this. He said, teach the child, right? Teach the child the word bird, and the child will stop looking at the bird. And so, because of the child creates a sense of duality, right? The child now has an identification right here. This is the bird, and this is the identification, right? So the child stops looking at the bird, or more like this is the identification, and this is the bird, right? The child's only looking at the identification. Sort of like when you fall in love, you're looking at the person first, and you're like, oh my god, I love you. Oh my god, you're the best. And then you get to know about them and their history and what you like and dislike about them, and then boom, baby, you replace them with the idea of them. And then this is what you live with. Yeah, baby. I got philosophical today. But yeah, I mean, it's true, And when you paint, you do that. And you have to unlearn the history. This is why I tell artists all the time, unlearn painting. You have to unlearn painting, because if you keep painting from what you know, you'll never paint happy ever again. You'll never paint a piece. Happy, who gives a shit about happy? But a piece. Peace is more important, right? Because happiness comes and goes, but peace is something that can stay, right? It lingers. And happiness is fleeting. Peace is not. Peace is always there. It's just that it gets muffled with all the shit, right? It gets muffled. It gets suppressed. And so when I'm painting, this is something that I'm always Hell yeah, those deep talks. So when I'm painting, this is something that I'm always looking at, right? I always have to pay attention and look at constantly. We're about to go home. Okay, I gotta take a turn, Mom. Okay. And so yeah, that is, at the end of the day, that's really the most important thing when you're creating artwork, is to drop the identification. Easier said than done, but it is a practice, and it's a daily practice. And maybe if we can make it a game, you know, like the thing that I do is that I tell myself I can never make a bad painting. I can only think badly of a painting, right? I can never make a bad painting, but I can think badly of a painting. As Shakespeare, right? William Shakespeare said, there's no such thing as good or bad, but thinking makes it so, right? Thinking makes it so. So if you come from that place, it helps in sales too, by the way, because you guys know I'm always talking about marketing and sales here. It helps in sales. Like, I can never fuck up this sale, right? I can think I did, but I can never really mess it up, right? I'm going to stop cursing a little bit, because I know some people get, you know, I don't know, sad about that. Sad. I don't want to make anyone cry. Yeah, you know, so just not thinking about it, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna go and I'm going to go get a sale. It's just not happening right now. That's how I look at it. I'm gonna go market, but I'm not getting anything right now, right? So if I go from that, then I can drop all ideas of it, right? Like, I can walk in and own the situation, and own, here I go again, the fucking place. I can't stop, sorry. And now it's okay, because I'm not trying to get something out of it right there. I'm going there and I'm giving something, and then I can walk away and go somewhere else and give something, and walk away and go somewhere else and do the same thing over and over, and then the sale starts happening, because I'm not invested in it, right? I'm invested in hitting as many places as possible and giving value, but I'm not invested in, I'm like, oh my God, when are they going to pay me? Like, for example, when I do coaching, some of the things that I do is I give value through social media, doing these videos or whatever, and I'm not thinking, oh my God, I hope this happens. Because if I do that, then I stop giving value. Something happens when you start overthinking something, you hold back and you retract, and so it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You hold back, and because you're holding back, you don't know that. That's why the sale doesn't happen, because you're no longer giving. It's when you're giving when you get back. It's when you're giving. It's always when you're giving. So, anyways, I hope that makes any sense to anyone. My name is Jose Trujillo. I'm an artist, and this has been a pretty good long session, me painting and chatting. And thank you so much, Rachel. Rachel's a super awesome artist too. At Your Artist for 90 days. Yeah, baby. All right, guys. Take it easy. Take care. And be cool, all right? Don't go bananas with your artwork or your career. Surrender to it. Find little fun ways to surrender to it. It'll give you so much more if you just do. And I know that I'm always after that. You know, I'm always looking how to surrender. So that's why I'm saying it. All right? Take care, guys. Peace.